Hey everybody, today's topic, Western Mountaineering sleeping bags. Are they worth the cost? So let's jump right on in. First, they are a pricey bag. The example bag I'm going to show you is 750 bucks, thereabouts. And they do have bags that go up to $1,000. However, there are a lot of reasons that they are pricey like they are. First, they are made in the USA. While sleeping bags are not necessarily that time consuming to sew, cut and sew, they you still have warehousing, inventory, cost of a lot of other things. So it is naturally going to create a higher price. Second, the bag I have right here, the Western Mountaineering Badger, this is one of the finest bags I believe made. I think that everyone practically who is avid about getting outside and who may do some cold weather stuff would be well served with this bag. The reasons this bag is so good comes down to quality materials, quality craftsmanship, and I'm going to go over that in some details here. First, the shell on this is what they consider their microfiber. I absolutely love microfiber bags myself. I believe that they're worth a little bit of the extra weight because the microfiber creates a broader comfort range. And the reason being is that it breathes very well. This breathing so well means that you feel drier in it, so you don't get chilled where you might be feeling clammy in another sleeping bag. Next up, they use differential baffles. Basically, the baffles are where you see the stitching here to the stitching here. They're inside, and that's what the down is. So a sleeping bag, when you're in it, is like this, and by cutting it differential, means that there's going to be less movement of the down. That and really filling the baffles well is going to mean that you're going to have less cold spots. Because, for instance, if you have it like this, but they aren't really differential cut, say you're a side sleeper, which I am primarily a side sleeper, you are almost creating a peaky in it, and the down is going to slide off on the sides, your hips are going to get cold. Where the differential cut with a well-filled baffle, this down is going to stay, you're going to continue to sleep warm. The next thing up, and I will give you a very good example on this, is the zipper. It really, they don't sag. A lot of sleeping bags, you're waking up, so you need to go to the bathroom at 2 in the morning or whatever, and you're going to go a little bit and snag, then you're going to fiddle with it. You're going to go a little bit, snag, fiddle with it, a little bit more, snag, fiddle with it. Then you're going to get out of your tent. You're going to relieve yourself or whatever. You're going to get back in. It's going to be possibly, if you're using a 15-degree bag like this, it might be chilly, and you're going to be like snag, snag, snag. Next thing you know, you're going to have a hard time going back to sleep because you not only just unzipped your bag, got out, went, relieved yourself real quick, and then went back in. You've been messing with trying to get out of your bag. You've been trying to in. Now, the reason, they use metal slider number 5 YKKs, but they also put this stiffener in here, which helps keep the down out of the way. And they have a significant baffle, which covers the zipper. Now, a lot of bags do not have these baffles which cover the zipper. They just do not have this level of detail within them. Next up, you have very large draft collars. If you look here, this collar here is very large. This collar here is very large. What happens if you do not have a real good draft collar? And a lot of bags try to save a little bit of weight or a little bit of money by just getting a real good cinch there. And that is possible. But as it gets colder, if the bag is fairly true to temp, which Western Mountaineering bags are, this Badger, for instance, is a 15-degree bag, and I really trust it very close to 15 as long as I do my part and keep myself well fed, well nourished, etc. And I'm not going to bed super cold. Um, but what will happen, and I have had this happen in lesser bags that are still they're still fairly expensive, is that your feet will be warm, but your chest and stuff will be cold because you will have air that gets in, and it's not going to be as noticeable when, say, it's 40 degrees out. But when it gets down to 20 degrees, that is going to be quite noticeable. Now, since we're talking about the hood, this hood is also a reverse differential cut. What it means is it's bigger on the outside, smaller on the inside. This really makes it cup your head quite well. Now, finally, one of the last reasons that I think that these are exceptionally good bags and that everyone that is very into going outside would be well served to have one of these in their quiver is that they use the highest quality down available. And if you know how they grade down, there can be a fairly big variance in how down is measured. It can be as much as 10%. So an 850 down might actually be an 800 down, or it might be a 900 down, somewhere in there, or very close to those numbers. So Western Mountaineering is very conservative in how they do that. And by being very conservative, it creates a little bit of a natural overstuff. You will see a lot of bag manufacturers offer the ability for you to overstuff. You will see people talk about it all the time on forums that, oh, I got overstuffing, so down would stay or give me a little bit of extra warmth. Well, what happens is a lot of times without the overstuffing, you will have the down shift quite a bit, and especially if you're a side sleeper. And that's going to create cold spots, which is going to wake you up in the middle of the night. Now, who am I to be talking about all this? First, um, I started an outdoor brand about 15 years ago. It's a niche brand, and it has quite a few pretty highly regarded articles. This is entirely separate from the brand. This is me just putting knowledge out there and seeing what happens. I am not being paid by Western Mountaineering, nor do I plan to be paid by Western Mountaineering. I am taking my gear that works, that I have years of experience with, and trying to inform people to make the right choice. And why am I trying to get people to do the right choice? The reason is that in the woods, when I'm out, a lot of times I see people, I see the gear they have, and I think those people are going to have a poor experience. And I believe that we have a duty to try to give people the best experience they can. Because if people have too many poor experiences, they're going to say, screw this. This isn't for me. I've never slept a good night outside, period. I don't think it needs to be that way. I think there's a lot outside that you can really enjoy, and that it really helps to disconnect, and that for a lot of people, it's just wonderful. What I'm trying to do is reduce the amount of poor experiences people have. Now, every experience can go sideways a little bit, but if you're well prepared as a backpacker, as a bike packer, whatever your passion is, you can deal with those situations much better. So now let's go on and talk about the differences in some of the fabric. So where I said that was a 2.5 pound bag, which it might be a little heavy for what some people are looking for. However, that is a fairly roomy bag. And I think one of the problems that people make when buying a sleeping bag is that oftentimes they try to buy them too small to save a little bit of weight. And they think that, well, I'm going to be heating less spot because the sleeping bag does not create heat. You are the heater. And, technically it makes sense to have a smaller space that your body is heating. But if you get that space too small, then you're going to have then you're going to be compressing on the sides, which is going to reduce the effectiveness of the down itself. So this right here is a Western Mountaineering quilt. Quilts do not have zippers. They're very stripped down. As you can see, this is kind of a stretchy neck baffle here. There is no underside. Um, but this is rated to about 30 degrees and weighs just barely over a pound. It is pretty accurate in its rating to 30 degrees. However, this is the extreme light fabric. The extreme light fabric does not breathe as well as the microfiber. So even though this is a quilt, which is going to have a little bit of draftiness, you can just vent it up and let the air exchange a little bit. If you get too warm, it does have a tendency to feel a little more clammy inside. So I think a lot of people could be well served by using a dual bag setup. Like if you take that Badger there, for instance, and say, this is most of my time. And then when it's just quick summer trips, there's not a lot of risk. Something like the quilt can work. And then you can stuff the quilt inside of the bag if you need more warmth. I've used that strategy down into negative temperatures in the boundary waters when it was fairly cold. I think those kind of things can work. I will go over that in another video. If you have enjoyed this video and found it useful, like, comment. In fact, give me other questions that you might have. Thanks.